David Goss and Susanna Collins with you. We're doing a Monday show on Thursday because we had a midweek games and everything else around it. And Susanna, I will say it was a packed Wednesday night,
to say the least.
And let's start at the top. And I think the winners of Wednesday night is steeped in green, the Verde of Austin FC. It was a statement win. It was a huge game for them. It was a good performance on top of the result to win at LAFC, to take over first place in the Western Conference head-to-head, to win on the road. So many things that were firsts or big moments for this Austin team. Suzanne, I think we both came in and said obvious openers to the show.
Big time. Like you said, just an incredible statement win from Austin, who, I think they've been getting results, right? And there's still sort of this sense that their schedule has been easier. They haven't had these, tougher opponents, but to go to Bank of California Stadium, to get a 2-1 win on the road against a very, very good LAFC team who was sitting on top of the West. This was the game that they needed. And I think the game that, can perhaps silence some of the critics. Andrew Levy, looking at you. Andrew Levy, looking at you. That's probably my favorite part of all of this, of them winning yesterday, was just watching on social media all of Austin Twitter, the Verde just coming at him, including Felipe Martins, which just it brings me joy. I don't know why. I love Andrew Levy, but it's
how quickly is Felipe on his phone in the locker room?
I don't know.
How
but
fast?
That guy pays attention to everything. He literally, I think he watches everything on MLSsoccer.com.
Hey, Felipe. Shout out to
Felipe, we love you. But yeah, this was huge for them. I thought that Brad Stuver was incredible in this one. So he's so important, right? What an important part of that team. Perhaps maybe, it's not lucky, but it kind of, things got really, really tense there at the end. There was that potential penalty maybe on Kip Keller that I'm still kind of I don't know if it was enough for me to call it. But I mean, it's the first time LAFC dropped points at home all season. So this was absolutely huge for Austin. They're legit. And you know what else I like? Gosh, so many of their games this year, they've just dumped a bunch of goals. They've relied completely on that sort of explosive attack. And this was a game where they really had to manage it and kind of grind it out. A 1-goal win for them, it feels, I think that's a testament to kind of the character that they're building on this team. So it wasn't this blowout, flashy offensive performance, but they got the job done against a very, very good opponent.
For LAFC, an interesting game in that they don't start Arango. I thought Vela was quiet in this one, and I think they didn't really have a center forward to occupy or stretch the center backs. Vela, therefore, didn't find the game as much as you'd like, and I think we're starting to see cracks in the armor for LAFC, and it's sort of, I think, what I expected from the beginning of the season, and then they come out hot, and you're like, oh, no, it's LAFC. This is who they are, and now you're starting to see it, maybe the other side. At the same time, for Austin, how much are you sold now? How legitimizing was this win?
To be honest, I've not been sold the whole time, but I think that anytime you get wins and they've scored a ton of goals this season, I think offensively they've got a really, really impressive free flowing attack that I legitimately believe in. And I think that this was a big win on the road for them. I will go back to saying this was a statement win, and I think one that does legitimize sort of the rest of the season that they've had so far.
I would say for my first winner after that, I thought the two biggest games of the night were this LAFC Austin game and Nashville hosting Montreal.
Sure.
Top of the East, Nashville getting back home, trying to prove that Geodis Park is a fortress, all those things off Gary Smith saying we were terrible in Houston. And Alex Muyl. Why not? If you're going to have a stunning home goal, why not it come from the American Messi, Alex Muyl. He's got the knee slide in the celebration as well.
His celebration was great, by the way. Knocks over the corner flag. Like, I mean, I was like, you owned that entire moment, my friend. It was, what a goal, though. My God, just the way his control, because he took that ball. It was from Joe Willis.
Off the
And
keeper's
just
foot.
the way he handled it with his body, and then just kind of like cut in. And then you saw CJ Sapong do that little like dummy run that completely just the defense had no idea what was going on. And then that left foot, I mean, just it was so pretty. I think that's my favorite goal I have seen scored at Geoda's Park thus far.
Nice. Is there? I don't know. Although you were a big fan of the Zubac goal after we did the Open Cup game, so that is high praise. Then
I was. I also love Alex Muyl.
Yeah,
he's a friend of the call up. So
former Red Bull 2 legend as well, which is the best team in the land. And it. Listen, Nashville. I think they're one of the top teams in the league. I think they're competitive. Goals are a question mark still right now.
Yeah.
And so to get a goal like that and change the way the game is played. Now Montreal has to chase you. Montreal has to bring on attacking subs. Mm-hmm. That was a huge moment. And so I put a decent amount of the goal on Lassi Lapalainen for trying to jump that pass, for trying to be aggressive. Yeah. But from that moment on, it's not easy. It is not a given goal, even after he misses that pass. The ball is so far out wide. It's such a tough pass to control cleanly, and then Will has so much work to do. And it was the moment that you need for a team, which I think will be goals by committee over the course of the year. And 100%. It's been interesting, this discourse. I talked about it a bit on the show yesterday, previewing this game around their lack of subs. I do think they're one of the deeper teams in the league in a bunch of areas where other teams don't have depth. In center mid, at center back, and center forward, they've got better depth than everyone else. But in terms of pure attacking subs, that hasn't been there. A lot of that falls on Ake Loba. And so to get a goal from Alex Muyl in this game, to get a goal from Zubac a week ago, you're going to need those little bits of production until a Sapong, Hani Mukhtar, and hopefully Ake Loba come on.
We saw the Sapong, Hani Mukhtar connection, and they're going to need that to really, really start clicking. And it was a nice goal. That's exactly what, if Nashville, I have to think that Gary Smith, this game for him was exactly what he wanted to see. Nashville now, Goss, they're unbeaten at home over their last 23 games or something ridiculous like that.
I think it was Kelly Glendenning said post game it was 560 something days.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's an insane.
And that's why we all said, well, they'll be fine once they get home.
Yeah.
But you do have to do it. And we kind of get stuck in this when we've had how many teams open new stadiums, right? Atlanta did it. Toronto did it back in the day 3 times. SKC did it. You assume that's what will happen, but you can't be sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I just think you're now far enough in to say, yeah, this building gives us an advantage. We are a different team when we play here. We will be fine. Will they win Supporters Shield? I don't know. Let's take a listen to Matt Doyle and Kalen Carr's thoughts from last night's MLS After Dark.
Nashville needed this after what happened over the weekend when Gary Smith lit into them.
No, absolutely. And, I think Nashville, they rested some guys over the weekend. And I think once we get to this kind of congested part of the schedule, and they had a crazy long trip on the road. But once they tested the depth, and we've seen some MLS teams having to do that as of late, I think Nashville found out that it maybe wasn't all there for them. They didn't play Walker Zimmerman from the start, I don't think at all in the last game. And then Hani Mukhtar only came on late, and the Dynamo were able to take advantage through Quintero. But this one comes in, you see the full strength team and the contributions. CJ Sapong for me has just been so good, just as far as being able to, he's always a handful, but he's really been consistent and kind of a perfect complementary piece to Hani Mukhtar, the way he's just able to kind of occupy space. The two have a good understanding of each other, and the way he's able to kind of play a little bit of a hybrid of getting in behind, but also participating in hold up play. So Nashville get a team that hasn't always gotten the home results. And we talked about after going on the road for so long and having a pretty good start, them needing to come home and not just sort of hold serve and go with the sort of traditional ties that we've gotten, but that we've seen them get in the past, especially last year, but turn those into 3 points. And they did that well tonight.
They did.
Are you concerned at all about Montreal? I mean, eight, I think unbeaten. But when you mention like NYCFC surging, we've seen Philly dipping a little bit, not being able to get 3 points in, I think maybe 4 or 5 games now. And then you see Montreal, who many people probably didn't expect to be near this top 3 at this stage of the season. How are you feeling about them overall right now?
Yeah, this doesn't shake me at all. Like eventually this unbeaten run was going to come to an end, and at Nashville is a tough place to play, even though it hasn't exactly been a fortress since they opened it up. But like Nashville's still a good team, and you have to play your A game to beat them. And midweek short rest, it's totally understandable to me that Montreal lost this one. I still think they're one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the Eastern Conference, even though they didn't show it tonight.
Let's get into some individuals and then more team stories. Suzanne, we're going to your neck of the woods. What's your next winner?
Well, Chris Muyl, back in MLS. He was one of my favorite players in MLS. So glad to have him back after his little jaunt overseas playing with Hibs. But he scores his first goal for the Chicago Fire. It was a beautiful goal too. The way his little dance in that box, and then the little give and go with Gutierrez. It was and then just a tremendous finish from him. It was really, really great to see him score. You can see what he brings to that attack, his ability to combine with other people. You have to think that is exactly what they were hoping for in bringing him into this team, because it was a team that was a little bit toothless in the attack. They need somebody like him to create. So, obviously a huge positive for him that, he's able to get that first goal, and you can see the difference that he makes. This was, as Hendrickson said after the game, they should have won. This was a draw that felt like a loss.
They led twice in the second half. They went up 2-1 in the first 5 minutes. They go up 3-2 entering stoppage time. I think it was like 88th minute, Shaqiri's goal. And they don't win, which is rough. On the positive, though, let's stay positive first, then we can get there, because there's plenty to go on that side of things in this game, because Red Bulls have a whole conversation that they want us to have on that one. I think with Muyl, you said it. It's what they need. They need a guy to attack defenders. They need a guy to pick up space. I also just look at it's an 11-player sport. And as much money as Shaqiri is making, he needs teammates that can help him and play with him. And you saw it in this game. The interchange, the movement. Right after the goal, Red Bulls go down the other way. They have an opportunity. It goes to Slonina's hands. And as they go and play out, Shaqiri goes out wide and Muyl comes inside as the 10. And that's what Shaqiri needs, is he needs that freedom to move, but he needs guys who are reading him and understanding him and can pick up the ball. And you saw, I think, in his celebrations with Muyl when he scores, it feels like he's got that support. Reinforcements are there. Like, this is a team that I think can build around him and contend. We've asked the questions all season. Now, you could argue 2 of their 4 attacking pieces have just arrived. And so, it'll take some time, but no MLS team can really handle having those types of losses and remaining competitive. We've seen it already this season with a number of teams. And so Muyl hitting is exactly what they need. And then Jairo Torres comes off the bench and is phenomenal. He plays more than he did last game, so he's working his way into things. And he is, I think, the piece that they need. I think all 3 of them, with Shabilko, can interchange, can float. I think they see the game in similar ways. I'm excited to watch the Chicago attack, which you haven't been able to say this season.
No.
And that alone, I think, is a huge bonus for this team. Now we can get into, though, they should have won. And Gaga Slonina, for the 2nd straight game, loses them points. It's a very simplistic way to put it. He's a goalkeeper. Every mistake he makes will get there. But it was the turnover against FC Cincinnati late in that one that made it 2-1. And then this one goes through his hands to make it 3-3. And I think Doyle put out the tweet, and not wrong. He's a young kid. Can he play through it, or do you try and help him a little bit and maybe pull him away, let him get a breath, and then bring him back?
That's such a hard question with goalkeepers too, because, you know, I think that, yeah, you can look at him and be like, God, he's so young. Maybe he would benefit from a little break, you know, you take him out, but then does that affect his confidence? And goalkeepers, it's such a, you know, it's such a streaky position, right? Like if you're in a good zone, if you're in a good headspace, then you're like unstoppable. But once that wobbles, once you're kind of out of that, it can take a while to get back to where you have that confidence, and you're almost second guessing yourself all the time. And so it's a really, I mean, in some ways I think like this is not like this is kind of like a silver lining situation where it's like I'm go through this now, you know, like go through some adversity now and see how you deal with it. He comes across Goss as like way older than
for
he is,
sure,
way more mature than he actually is. I think that I do think he has the mental toughness to kind of work himself through this, just based on his personality, what he said, how he reacts to situations like this. But it is it's a concern.
I think that there is a moment where you need to have him step back and take a breath. I also think I talked about on the show yesterday, they signed Chris Brady to a 6-year contract extension, and he is a highly touted young goalkeeper as well. They brought in a backup keeper to be a backup keeper in Spencer Ritchie, but a guy that can start in MLS, and I think it was a very specific reason.
Yeah.
I don't know that grinding a teenager into the ground makes you better in the end. And it is a balance because you don't want him to completely lose confidence and all of those things. It's a tough one.
It's hard.
But I think in my eyes, this was the give him one more game and see what happens. And he made the mistake. And it's not pull him and he's not the starter. It's just give him a game. Also, you got midweek games. You had the Open Cup loss, all that. It just feels like now is your opportunity to step away. And you got the national team stuff going on. He's a young person. He's got a full international coach coming to his games. They're calling him up. Everyone's talking about the U.S. He's got a lot going on. I think it's the club's job to identify that and make sure that they're protecting him for himself as well as for the team. And I think that might be the best way to go about it. So let's continue rolling on. We've got 2 teams coming up, I think, that are sort of in similar spots, maybe a little different. Let's start with Vancouver. I'll go my winner, which is Lucas Cavallini, El Tante. Yeah. They figured out the treads. The gas is back in the tank. He's rolling again, goal and an assist. I think it's 2 goals, 2 assists over the last 3 games for him. Gets the winner in this one on a penalty late on. A lot of this one, I think, by the way, on the penalty went on Jimmy Maurer. He had a really tough play trying to save the ball. Then he clears it into his own box. And then Cerrillo gets called for the penalty kick after that, sort of in the chaos that ensues. But Cavallini, he is making defenders' lives hard. He's running hard. He's making hard runs. He's shifting defenses. He's being aggressive. He's linking up with his teammates. Like, he's doing all these things right that we haven't seen goals come with it. And now that they are, it is complete performances. And this is exactly what he needs to continue his spot with Canada. This is exactly what Vancouver needs. Like, they are married in this. No one is going anywhere. No. And they need the best from him. Ryan Gauld still unavailable. Brian White comes off the bench. But I thought Dallas came out stronger. Vancouver settled themselves. And then they started to find the game. And Baldissimo was good. And Raposo was good. And I think over the last 2 weeks, there's been positive signs for Vancouver. Let's keep rolling on. Your next winner. You were very excited about this team and this coach who have helped turn things around.
It's a great story. It's a great story. San Jose Earthquakes. Let's go. They are now 5-1-1 across all competitions under Alex Cavello since he took over as head coach after the departure of Matias Almeida. 3-1-1 in MLS competitions. This is just a 3-2 win over Portland, who, by the way, were coming off that 7-goal explosive performance against SKC. This is very, very encouraging. They're getting I don't know. It just feels like there's a comfort level now. I think that now that they've kind of like shed that identity that they had under Matias Almeida, that like man marking thing, it's guys are playing in their position. He's finding ways to get guys super comfortable. I love what we're seeing from guys like Jeremy Ebobisse, who we've always known is capable of being really special. Jackson Ewell, like it's like it makes me really happy to see this team kind of growing into their new identity, because when you look at the roster, there's a ton of talent. And it's just very, very encouraging what they've been able to do since the departure of Almeida, and a huge amount of credit should go to Alex Cabello for what he's been able to get out of these guys.
Our final winner is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Stefan Frei, with his 87th career MLS shutout last night. He moves to third all time in Major League Soccer, behind Kevin Hartman and Nick Raimondo, and just a huge moment for him. I think it goes to the combination with him, which is quality and longevity. Mm-hmm. And for him to be able to do what he's done with Seattle now for 11 years?
Yeah.
I think it is at that high level. MLS Cups, CCL, Open Cups, Supporters Shield. He has won it all. And this was huge for two things. One, for Stefan Frei to get his due, which he probably doesn't get enough of outside of Seattle.
Absolutely.
But he probably gets enough of in Seattle that he evens itself up, because that's such a great soccer market. And for Seattle, they on points per game move up above the line. Mm-hmm. They obviously still have games to make up with CCL, but I think over the last week you can feel like it'll come together. They're on the right track.